Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with an unboxing video that I know many of you have been looking forward to. It is Black Sabbath, Anno Domini, the Tony Martin years. So before I start to tell you what I think of this, I'm going to show you inside the CD box set and the vinyl box set. So let's dive in and have a look. So this is a look inside both the CD box set and the vinyl box set for Black Sabbath, Anno Domini 1989 to 1995. Let's go with the CD set first of all. So it is exactly the same design as all the other Black Sabbath Deluxe sets. Take off the lid, and this is the little bit of marketing sheet that usually is stuck on the back of the box, and so it fits nicely in the box itself once you've taken it off. You know, sometimes they're kind of oversized and you aren't quite sure what to do with them. So the little hype sticker, you might not be able to see this, but basically it said it was a 4 CD Super Deluxe edition featuring 3 newly remastered album, 2024 Tony Iommi remix of Forbidden, 1989 Headless Cross, tour replica concert book, 60-page book with photos, artwork, liner notes, and a Headless Cross poster. The first part is the book, which I'll come to last of all. There is a poster. It's going to be easier to fold this one out than it is the vinyl one, so I'll show you this one. But basically the vinyl one is the same, except twice the size. Well, almost double, isn't it? So that's the poster. Then there's the tour book for Headless Cross, which is really well replicated. That's exactly the same. Obviously in the vinyl set it is the size of the tour book tour program would have been at the time. So just like the other Black Sabbath sets, it's just slightly miniaturized, but it's easy to read and great touch. Then, as before, the albums are in slightly oversized CD cases or sleeves, with the polylined sleeve to protect the disc inside. There's no inner sleeves as such, to what obviously there were in the original releases, but I'll explain why as I go through the review. So that's Headless Cross. Then TYR is next, exactly the same. And then Cross Purposes in a sleeve. And then Forbidden. It's the last one in the set with all the original artwork. And then the book itself is a softback, so that is different to all the other deluxe editions we've seen so far. They've always been little hardback books. This time it's a softback book. The essay is a kind of a collection of quotes and stories and interviews from across the years, basically in many ways cut and pasted together to tell the story. So that's obviously why you've got Cozy Powell talking, you know, Tony Iommi, Neil Murray, Tony Martin, obviously. There are new sections from interviews with Iommi and Martin, but primarily it's taken from across the years when these were coming out. So you've got lots of memorabilia from Kerrang, press photos, Metal Hammer, etc. As it goes through each album, Headless Cross gets a lot of press because obviously it was a huge comeback album. There's also a section on the intermission, because obviously the story about Dehumanizer when Dio came back. So there's a full story about that and what happened and why it didn't last that long. And then we're back to Tony Iommi returning with Cross Purposes. Cross Purposes Live is featured, but not in the box set. And I'll talk in the main summary why I think that might be. Forbidden, some background about the remix and why Tony worked on it. I can give you a little preview of that now and actually say this. It sounds very, very different and absolutely fantastic. And there's the epilogue where we got to, and then all the references. So you can see that you've got a lot of stuff from 1989 going all the way to 1990, 2003 to November 2023 with Tony Iommi and Tony Martin. And then lots of covers. And then you've got all of the track listings and timings at the back. But you also have in this, you have bonus track on Headless Cross, and you have a bonus track on Cross Purposes and a bonus track on Forbidden. Okay, so I'll explain while I'm pointing that out in a moment. So that is the CD set. Right, I'm just going to push that to one side and then move on to the vinyl set. It's exactly the same but bigger, vinyl sized. Okay, lift up lid like so, and just as the CD one has, you have this kind of like marketing sheet that was stuck to the back, so that fits in the box really well. The booklet, which I'll come to last of all. The tour program, so as you can see, it feels like you've just gone to a Black Sabbath gig, because this is what you would have bought in the foyer of your favourite venue back then. So I know I've shown you this in the CD one, but for completion I think I should show you the one that's in a vinyl box as well. So really nice program. Discography at the back, lots of pictures as you'd expect, and all the credits, etc. And that is the tour program. The poster is huge, so I'm not going to try and open this up for you to see, but just to kind of get a feel for it, I suppose. It's absolutely enormous. So that's the program, and then the albums, I'll have to just kind of empty them out. It's probably easier for me to do that if you just bear with me. So Headless Cross, now they all have poly-lined sleeves, all of them, and the pressings are superb, absolutely superb pressings. I played all of them, everything that I'm showing you I have played. There are no inner sleeves to this either, so some of you thinking, well, when I bought it had the lyric sheet inside. I'll explain where that is. And 2IR, exactly the same, polyline sleeve. The covers are nicely duplicated, cross purposes. They all have polyline sleeves. I'll keep saying that because that was the Now Spinning magazine campaign in 2023, and we'll continue it to actually see that all new vinyl should come with a polyline sleeve, and it's great to see so many record labels are now doing that. And the last one, Forbidden, polyline sleeve. And then let's go to the booklet next. It's also a softback cover, which doesn't work so well in an album size book. It works okay in the smaller CD set, but it just feels kind of, it's just not as easy to manhandle and to read. Okay, but I'll explain more in my summary at the end. Obviously it's bigger, it's exactly the same, but I'll go through it just so you can see, for completion, you can see what they both look like. So everything you saw on the other one, you're seeing here. Trying to make sure you don't get too much glare from the sun outside as I go through this. And then we're towards the end. References. And now, here are the lyrics. And as it says here, this is the Headless Cross LP inner bag from 1989. So the inner sleeve that would have been with the original albums is actually in the book. So everything that was in the inner sleeve is actually in the book. And there you go. And TYR exactly the same. So those of you who had the original vinyl album, this was the inner bag, and they put it in the book rather than put it in the albums, which I think is fine because I've got polylined inner sleeves, and otherwise it would have been scratchy inner bags. So this is fine with me. Cross purposes, all the lyrics, and then forbidden. Now, the other thing that's different here is it lists all the tracks, is there are no bonus tracks in the vinyl set. Okay, so that's another difference between the two sets. So that is Anno Domini, the CD and vinyl set for Black Sabbath, and now I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are. So that's a look inside Black Sabbath's Anno Domini box sets, both the CD and the vinyl set, which cover the 1989 to 1995 period of the band. Now, I'm going to give you a real honest opinion of what I think of both these sets, okay? I'm going to point out some things that I feel could have been done better. It's easier to do that when you see something as beautiful as this has been created, because it's overall, I'm going to give this a complete thumbs up. But obviously, when you've got something in front of you, you can think, well, maybe that might have been a bit better, whatever. So this is just personal observations, but I know some of you will be asking these questions. So let's get some of the stuff out of the way. Is why isn't the internal idol included? Tony Martin's on that. Well, as it says on the box, it covers 1989 to 1995. Also, this was on a separate label. So these are all from the IRS Records label. All of these 4 albums were released on IRS, and so obviously for licensing and everything else, they're all under that area. And if I really wanted to focus on what this is about Tony Martin's journey with Sabbath and his contributions to it. When he recorded this one, The Eternal Idol, it was already complete. It was already done. Everything was done. Basically, Tony went in and sang on it. Okay, so that's not in there, but I don't feel that is an issue whatsoever. This is about the core of Tony Martin's, story with Black Sabbath. And so we can just park that, because this is where Tony Martin brought his influence and his songwriting skills into the band. Okay. Now, observationally, the book is softback in both sets, whereas in all the other Black Sabbath Deluxe sets, it's been a hardback book. Now, in the CD set, I'm not going to question that, whether it's for cost reasons or whether it's a stylistic thing or design. I think it works. It works fine. I have no issue with the book being a softback book in the CD set at all. In the vinyl set, it doesn't work quite as well, because you're sitting there on your lap and it's kind of feeling, and you get fingerprints all over it, and there's more of a feel that you might damage it. It just doesn't fold out the same. And I think vinyl sized softback books, once they get to a certain size, and this is a certain size, I just think it would have been better as a hardback book, and especially as it's super deluxe. Okay. However, that's an observation. In the vinyl set, you obviously could see that there are no inner sleeves to each record, but you get polylined inner sleeves to protect the vinyl. Okay. But you do get what was the inner sleeves in the vinyl are now replicated in the book, showing you the lyrics. So to me, that's a tick. I like that. So in the first thing, surely there was, when you bought these albums the first time round, because many of you are that target audience, it's just the inner sleeves with the design on it, but that's in the book. Strangely, it's not in the CD book. So obviously you haven't got the inner sleeves either in the little CDs, but you don't have the lyrics in the book in the CD set, which seems a little odd in some ways. The other thing that's an anomaly is that this has some extra tracks, which were B-sides of 12-inch singles, etc. They are not on the vinyl set. Now, the albums weren't, I don't think they were overly long, and the songs that are the extra tracks are about 5 to 3 minutes long. So could they have been cut and put onto the vinyl set? Or could there have been included a 7-inch maxi single with the 3 songs in this set as well? So if you are kind of a completist, you are going to have like a situation where the vinyl set doesn't have the extra tracks, but has the lyrics, and the extra tracks are in here without the lyrics. So that's my observations of things that could have been done better. However, I now want to turn the dial in the opposite direction and say thank you to Tony Iommi and Tony Martin and BMG for making this box set appear. And the personal story in regards to this is that my eldest son, Dan, is 30 now. When he was 15, he set up a Facebook group about releasing the Tony Martin Sabbath era albums because they were so hard to find. They still are really hard to find. And if you did find them, the kind of CD designs had changed, and it said like, you know, they put like marketing blurb on. They just looked cheap and nasty, and you couldn't even. They were really hard to find. I'm saying this because Dan did this when he was 15, so half his lifetime has passed, and he remembers reaching out to Tony Martin back in the early days of Facebook, really, and Tony saying, "I don't think it'll ever happen, mate. Great that you set up a Facebook group." And here they are. You now have a chance to own these albums, this Tony Martin period of history. What I do like about the booklet is the fact that it doesn't skip over the fact that Dio re-emerged in the middle of all of this as they tried to take their fortunes as a band back up into the first division, because Sabbath was struggling in around this time. But how do the albums sound? Well, CD or vinyl, they sound immense. They sound absolutely fantastic. I played the vinyl first, I'll be honest, and then I played the CD, and I couldn't tell any difference apart from changing the setting on my volume control, because obviously the vinyl was a bit quieter. But immense. I think one of the things that really came across to me. I'll take them out of the CD box. It's easier than showing you the vinyl ones again. Is the absolute power of Headless Cross, because I know Sabbath did 13, and they were kind of like with the producer were heading back to trying to recreate the early 70s. But when you listen to Tony Iommi's guitar sound at this period, you hear the layers and layers of guitars. And Tony Iommi has always said, I don't have problems creating riffs. Never have. The riffs on this, you know, the Gates of Hell, Headless Cross, Devil's Daughter, I could read them all out. It sounds fantastic. The remastering, you know, is incredible. So you don't need to go and find an old vinyl copy of this anymore. You don't need to go and find an old CD version. These replace anything that has gone before. And that's the same with all of them, TYR. And I think what really comes across, I played them all back to back, 3 times in total. I played the vinyl, I played the CDs, and then I went back to the vinyl. Is that this one is more of a concept album. There's more textures. There's more Sabbath are kind of like there's more light and shade, and this one, which I didn't dismiss. I was busy. I got a young family, and I'd forgotten what half the bands I was following were up to. This one, out of the set, is the one that I've gone back and back to, because there's so much on this. There's some great riffs, and Tony Martin's voice. His image at this time, he had a beard, which was he was way ahead of his time in some cases. But back then, rock singers didn't really do that, and he may not have had. He didn't have a stage presence like David Roth or anything, but he sang. He was a serious musician, you know, heart of gold, and a absolutely killer voice. I've always loved Tony Martin's voice, even when I used to see him in the Alliance when I lived in Birmingham. He's got a fantastic voice. His songwriting, his love of the music that he was creating here. You've got Cozy Powell. That's another thing to point out. Cozy Powell's drums on the Headless Cross. Jeez. It's absolutely massive. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is, what you realise when you listen to these albums is the variety, is the light and shade. I think this is what I'm trying to say about heavy metal, why this is such a fantastic box set and such a great period of Sabbath's history, and why I would recommend everyone listen to it. In fact, I know Henry Rollins will say you can only trust the first 6 Sabbath albums. You know, cobblers to that. You can trust every single Black Sabbath album that's ever been made. All of them. Okay? Let's just get that straight. But if you look at heavy metal and you look at Sabbath, how they're seen as the godfathers of heavy metal, they invented this genre. Look at the albums, and especially, I want to take you to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Bear with me, I'm heading back to this any second. Is when you listen to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, just how varied musically that album is. For it to be called complete heavy metal. You look at all the tracks on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. You know, you've got so many different things. You've got so much instrumentation and strings and all sorts of things. The only other album in the Black Sabbath catalogue that I feel that has that sense of variety in the songs and the pacing of it is this. Cross Purposes and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath are, to me, very close. Listen with an open mind. Those of you who are Tony Martin fans, those of you who've had this on order for ages, hopefully you're going, yep, always thought that. And for those of you who just maybe haven't explored this period of the band's history, prepare to be amazed. Which kind of leads me to what happened after that. Because what happened after that did certainly feel like it was a misstep. They tripped over, and it was forbidden. This was the one that I remember hearing for the first time, and I just didn't get it. Everything else they'd done as a band, Sabbath, and everything, but this one, they had outside producers, they were just distracted, didn't know how the sun got in their eyes, there was a hole in their mitt, and they just dropped the ball. And over the years, I've read, Tony Iommi said, I'm going to remix Forbidden. I'm going to ask. I kept thinking, why? Why bother? Surely it can't be remix Born Again or something. There must be something you could remix. But, leave that one. Well, this is now a bona fide Black Sabbath album. It is a Black Sabbath album. The guitars have been pushed out to match the other albums in this set, and of course the Sabbath back catalogue. And the drums also are freed from their prisons. It's still, if I had to kind of rank the albums in this box, it would still be fourth. But I think all of you who have written this off will go, I don't know, or I don't think I need to bother. You haven't heard this before in your life. This is phenomenal. And now I understand. Now I understand why Tony Iommi wanted to do it. I can understand now why it was bugging him like having a stone in your shoe. And he just couldn't, he did his best to forget he was there, but he just kept niggling him all the time. And now he's done it. He's taken away some of the things that maybe didn't need to be there, and he's found other bits that were there that could have been brought further forward. But it's the guitar and drum sound. It's the Sabbath sound that is now sitting in the mix. It sounds great. And if you're thinking, Tony Iommi is kind of like, mixed by or produced by Tony Iommi, all of these albums. I mean, Headless Cross is such a powerful album. All the tracks. TYR is kind of, because it's all that Norse mythology, it has got more of a kind of concept kind of feel to it, and lots of different instrumentation. But I really feel that Tony Martin, it is Black Sabbath, Tony Martin, vocals, whatever. What I'm trying to say is that this set really shows you how important Tony Martin is as a vocalist and what he did. The other kind of thing, because people, I know some of you are saying, you've mentioned all these little misgivings, but there's an obvious one, isn't it? Where is all the unreleased stuff? There's probably all sorts of licensing issues, what you can and cannot do. I know Evil Eye had Eddie Van Halen was jammed on that, and they recorded it. He kind of helped pull the solo together. He's not there. They probably couldn't release it. There's obviously loads of live material, tons of live stuff, and it's not in there. There's even a picture of Cross Purposes Live, which was a DVD. Couldn't they put that on? What you've got to remember also, as you look back in the history, that when Tony Martin sang that, he was a little bit under par and under the weather, and maybe they didn't feel it would actually do the band justice. Maybe something else will happen later on down the line. But any misgivings I've had outside of that, which I feel is my job to point out things that could be done better, I cannot deny that this is an important part of Black Sabbath history, and it is fantastic to be sitting here in May, so that's when I've recorded this, in 2024, to be able to show you a box set of the Black Sabbath Tony Martin years, that it's here at last. It's really happened. So many of you have been thinking, never happened, it's been coming for ages. And here it is. And also, I will be talking to Tony Martin about this set and these albums very, very soon. So the link for that will appear under this review. But yes, the other thing I'll just say finally before I sign off is that the price will be very varied. They always are on these Black Sabbath sets. But my gut tells me that the Aussie stuff there's probably been more made than there will be of this. This is going to be more niche. And so my advice would be, if you want it, go get it. Don't hang around, because I think it will sell out really quick. I think the vinyl one will go quick, and I think the CD one will go quick. And you might think, well, they'll do another one. They might, but no record label wants things hanging around after the first rush of sales. So my advice would be, go get it. But you'll hear these albums the best that you've ever heard them. And let's say if this is £100, okay, which I think the price will probably drop. It's 4 albums. That's 25 quid each. £25 for remastered copies of Black Sabbath albums that have been so long out of print they are really expensive to find. It's not so bad then, is it? It's a big booklet. Yes, it would have been nice to have a hardback book, but it's full of information, and you've got all the tour program, etc. It's a great set. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here, and let me know what you think. Subscribe, ring that little bell, check out the website at nowspinning.co.uk. You can join our Facebook group and talk to other collectors, become a patron, YouTube member. Join us on social media. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Please take care, keep spinning those discs, and I shall see you all very, very soon.